Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Davey Deathray here. Hope you guys are having a very lovely Wednesday, the week of Friday the 13th, and not just any Friday the 13th, but guys, it's Jason's birthday coming up. So this one is extra special, and that's why we've got this extra special version or edition, I should say, of Late Night with the Davey. So special, in fact, that, yeah, I'm not wearing the blazer. Guys, I'm going relaxed. We're hanging out at camp. Everything's going to be okay. Don't worry. The blazer will be back next week, I assure you. Hopefully you guys are rocking and rolling here tonight and you're ready to get involved in this. Gosh, I don't even know what to call it. It is just the debate to end all debates. I think it's probably the most important topic on most people's minds. If you polled the American public, the issue that most people have contention, whether it's Thanksgiving or you know, trying to find somebody to spend their lives with, it's how do you feel about Friday the 13th, the final chapter, versus Friday the 13th, part 6, Jason Lives. It is a massive issue. It's pulling the country apart, guys. So, you know, to remedy that situation, we've got our buddy Mark of Tales from the Shelf joining us. You know, we've previously done versus battles of Alien versus Aliens, the two Halloween 2 movies, the original from 81 and then Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 from 09. And we also just did the Terminator versus Terminator 2 Judgment Day, I believe in April. So really excited for this one. Final chapter versus Jason Lives, because we've got our guy, Vincent DeSanti from WOMP STOMP Films, who's going to be joining us and helping out. This guy is the guy when it comes to Friday the 13th. So this should be quite definitive. And not only that, not only will there be 3 people on the panel discussing this and voting and all that kind of stuff, you guys are going to be able to have your say for each one of these categories as well. So this should be pretty, like I said, definitive on which film truly reigns supreme. Again, the most important topic on everyone's mind for, you know, the last, gosh, I don't know, almost 40 years since Jason Lives came out, I would imagine. So real quick, though, before we get going on all that stuff, I'm going to say what's up to everyone in the audience, and then I've got a little something that I want to share with you guys before we bring our guests on. So let's just see who we've got kicking it with us. We've got Lamontre Gillard in the chat. What's happening, Lamontre? We've got Chester Franklin Jr. What's up, Chester? We've got Brett from Good Real Hunting, one of our great channel members and Death Squad mods. How are you doing, Brett? We have Leanna Bevy Rage in the house, another channel member and Death Squad mod. Always a pleasure to see you, Leanna. And let's see here. Brett thinks that the final chapter is going to mop the floor with Jason Lives. I think it's going to be pretty close, but you never know. You really never know. And then he's saying really crazy stuff here. New Blood is greater than Jason Lives. I don't know. That sounds just downright irresponsible, Brett. We got Matt Arnett in the house. How are you doing, Matt? So good to see ya. Allie Girl kicking it with us. Thank you so much for joining, Allie. Always a pleasure to see you. Let's see who else we've got jumping on in. We've got Erica, one of our great channel members and Death Squad mods. Hope you're doing very well, Erica. Leanna, thank you so much for sharing that link. The link is also in the description below, folks. So if you miss either of these links for Tales from the Shelf or for Womp Stomp Films, you can check out the links to their socials down in the description below. And yes, hit that like button on the way in. Thank you so much to everyone who's tuning in live. If you're watching after the fact, thank you so much as well. Guys, watches on the replays are huge for these live streams. So thank you so much. Make sure you like and leave a comment. You know, let us know your feelings on the final chapter versus Jason Lives, which one you would pick for each category, all that kind of fun stuff. We got Ryan Olashow in the chat. How are you doing, Ryan? I am rooting for your Oilers in the Stanley Cup Finals. It's looking a little tough right now, but it's still early in the series, so we've got time. We got Gory Tiger in the chat. What's happening, Gory? Great to see you. Blu-ray Addict. How are you doing, Blue? Always a pleasure. We got Jason from Backtrack Cinema. What's up, Jason? So good to see you, man. Yes, just started, Ty. Hope you're doing well. Welcome on in. And yeah, we're really going to hit the ground running here in a few, but you know me. I gotta fucking talk a whole bunch. Don't worry, guys. When we actually get into talking about the movies, I'm going to let Mark and Vin say everything, and then I'm just going to be like, yeah, I agree with blank and say my vote. So there we go. We got Koi, Mr. Happy Sanjo in the chat, one of our great channel members. How you doing, Koi? So good to see you. Oh, there you go, Ty. All right. So we've some folks on both sides. This one is really tough. I've gone back and forth throughout my whole fandom on which one I prefer. What's happening, Brad? Hope you're doing well. Always a pleasure. We've got Cody Snyder, one of our great Death Squad mods, says I'll take both of these movies over all other slashers, even Halloween 1978. Dropping the hammer, Cody Snyder. They are very fun. To be fair, Halloween 78 walked so these two movies could run. So it was way easier for the Friday the 13th franchise because they didn't have to build the foundation. They just got to kind of run with it and have, I would say more fun with the slasher subgenre for sure. We got Tom Ungarian in the chat. What's happening, Tom? So good to see you, man. Welcome on back. Holy cow, the chat is just filling up. It is just filling up. Let's see who else. Want to make sure I'm not missing anyone else. And then we'll get into the fun stuff here. Ashton Luck. How are you doing, Ashton? So good to see you, man. We got Brooke Scarlett, the lovely Brooke Scarlett, one of our great channel members and Death Squad mods. Hope you are doing well, Brooke. Hope you and the fam are rocking and rolling. We got Prince hanging out, and it's Filipino Independence Day. He says, embrace the strange. Why the heck not? Why not embrace the strange? And I think that's everyone. I think we've said what's up. I'm sure other people will file in. But guys, real quick, before we bring on Mark and Vin, I do want to bring something to your attention here. Currently, right now, WOMP Stomp Films is raising funds for their next crowdfunding campaign. It's a Never Hike Alone, Ghosts in the Fog animated Friday the 13th short. There we go. I thought I heard a buzz there. Hopefully that wasn't too bad, guys. At least I got it fixed at the beginning of the stream, right? I don't know what's up with this microphone cable. Sometimes it's a bit finicky. Thank you so much for the reminder, Erica. Yeah, guys, make sure to like, subscribe if you haven't, all that kind of fun stuff. We do have channel memberships for just 99 cents a month. All that good kind of stuff there. So anyways, yeah, WOMP Stomp Films currently raising funds for their next project. So I wanted to talk about that a little bit and just show you guys the page here. The link is pinned in the chat, and it's also the very first thing on the description. So right now you can see they're about 40% of their goal of $50,000. They have 4 days left. And I just wanted to show off some of the perks they have and all that, just so you guys can take part in this. Now, I've previously taken part in some of the Never Hike Alone campaigns. I know I'm kind of small on the screen there, but I've got my nifty little Blu-rays here. So I got Never Hike Alone, Never Hike in the Snow, Never Hike Alone 2, and the Ghost Cut. And all of these have sweet little cards signed by Vin. This one even has Mr. Tommy Jarvis in there. I don't know why I always forget Tom Matthews' name for like the littlest second. I think it's because like the other guy is Tom Shepard that plays Tommy Jarvis in part 5. So I always have this weird like fear of saying the wrong name. But yes, Tom Matthews and Vin signed that Never Hike Alone 2 card. So yeah, you can get all sorts of fun stuff here. Just today, I picked up the Never Hike Alone vinyl. There are only 2 of them left. It was a limited run of 150. It's an item I've wanted for so long, and every time I've seen Vin or ran into him at a con, he doesn't have any, or he sold all the vinyls that he had brought with him to that event. So I picked that one up today. Happy to see that it helped push it just past that $20,000 mark into the 40%. But yeah, guys, you can get like a box set with the Never Hike Alone, the whole entire box for $150. You can do a virtual camper for just $25. You can just get the box. If you already have all the Blu-rays and you just want a place to house them, you can get that nifty little box there. Cabin wall art, coffee mugs, 11 by 17 posters. They've got beanies here, of course, t-shirts, all sorts of fun stuff. The solo camper, which is where you get to pick one of the Blu-rays. There's that vinyl. 3 out of 5 have been claimed. That is a sweet vinyl. Can't wait to make Vin sign it and then see if I can strong arm him into getting other people to sign it for me. And then we've got VHS copies of the films as well, which is really cool, especially if you're a collector of the retro. So yeah, guys, a whole bunch of stuff here. And I'm going to let Vin kind of have the floor when he joins us so he can tell you a little bit more about this project. I don't want to just read from the page. I want him to speak from the heart, you know, but I wanted to share that with you guys so y'all could see it there. And again, link is pinned in the chat and in the description. So check out their Indiegogo crowdfunding campaign and think about contributing. And I think that's all I've got for my little pitch there. And I think I'm ready. Mark, are you ready? I can see you back in the green room. Are you good to go? All right, I got a double thumbs up. That's very enthusiastic. I'm pumped too, Mark. Real quick before I bring you on, I'm just going to say what's up to the few more people that showed up here. We got Blazin' Asian, one of our great channel members. What's happening, Blazin'? So good to see you. And you, Jay Beach. What's happening, Jay Beach? Always a pleasure, man. I see Jay Beach all over the place in other people's chat rooms, so it's always great to see you hanging out with us. Thank you so much for sharing that, Eli. Appreciate you. And then, yeah, guys, really quick, just other housekeeping before I bring Mark back in here. Whole bunch of news bits videos are now released on the page. I did a news live stream yesterday, just covering some of the news that we didn't hit up on Hit the Bricks with Nick from the Lost River Drive-In and Lee from Drum Dums. So if you missed out on that live stream, you can check out those individual excerpts from the live stream there. And I think the only other thing that I've got is on Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern, I think. Yeah, 2 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to be going live with Trisha McMasters, one of our Patreon members and YouTube channel members. One of the things she requested when she became a Patreon member is she wanted me to watch and review The Collector from 2009. And I watched it, never reviewed it, and then I had this brilliant idea. Wouldn't it be fun to bring people on the channel when they request a film be reviewed, kind of review it with them live and do a discussion? So Trisha, one of our great community members, is going to join me on that live stream. That's going to be 2 p.m. Eastern this coming Saturday. So yeah, feel free to join us for that. That should be pretty damn fun. So not only is Mark ready, but it looks like Vin is all set as well. I got the single thumbs up. Okay, so he's half as enthused as Mark, but I'll accept it. There we go. Double thumbs up. I just got the double thumbs up. Oh, sweet. So now I know I can strong arm him into, you know, having some of the Never Hike Alone alumni maybe sign that that vinyl that I picked up through the crowdfunding campaign today. Maybe I can strong arm. He's a pretty big dude, though. I don't know. I don't know if there's and he just got back from Muay Thai, so I doubt I can strong arm anything out of the guy, but we'll see. All right, guys, if you're ready, without any further ado, let's go ahead and bring on our guests. We got Mark of Tales from the Shelf and Vincent DeSanti of WOMP Stomp Films. How are you guys doing?
Hey, what's up, everybody?
Doing well.
Vin, you're out of breath. Did you get a chance to clean up?
Not, I mean, I came right from the gym. I was like getting all ready. Like usually we get out at 8:45 out here, and I'm like, oh, you know, it gives me 10 minutes to get home, clean up a little bit, and then I was like getting my bag, and I picked up my phone. It said 9:10. I was like, holy shit! So I like ran out to the car, drove home. I already had like a change of clothes ready to go because I knew I was going to be like drenched. But,
yeah,
and I even had like a water set up because I knew I'd need water. So I was ready to go. All I had to do was plop in. So it sounded like you were carrying the torch. I appreciate that.
Of course, yeah. I shared the Indiegogo campaign. I figured I would let you kind of have the floor to talk a little bit more about the project. Really, I just showed off some of the perks, talked about how much time y'all have left. But I figured letting you, discuss the project, what it's all about, and what you're trying to accomplish, it would be something that the folks here would love to hear from you.
Oh yeah, I mean, Ghost in the Fog's been it's been a project running behind the scenes of the Never Hike Alone camp for quite a while. We started it back in the Never Hike Alone 2 campaign, and you know, Never Hike Alone 2 basically needed every dollar raised to get that thing finished. So we slowly worked on Ghost in the Fog in the background, and my whole mission with it was to expand the Never Hike Alone universe into animation, which is something I've wanted to do for a very long time, not just with Friday the 13th, but with horror in general. When I worked in animation I pitched horror all the time, but there was just no market for it. There was no place to put it. Back then it was, you can go on HBO, but streaming wasn't really a thing yet. Like Netflix really hadn't picked up steam yet. Now there's so much of an outlet for it that, I feel like, and we see what, there was a couple, there was like Love, Death, Robots, and there were things that came out on Netflix that really started to show us that there's a market for animation and horror fans. And just the fact that, I don't know about you guys, but I'm a big fan of like the animated Batman series and the films that come out. And I just wanted to see something like that in the realm of Friday the 13th. And I had actually pitched to Warner Brothers many years ago an animated series, which would have been 8 episodes a year. We would have covered different films and different types of Jasons. It wouldn't be linear. It would be more like an anthology. And it went through a couple of rounds, and then the lawsuit killed it when they went back in for the what was it? Not the first time, but the second time. When they went back in the second time, it sort of killed it. So it always kind of hung with me. I'm like, what would Jason do in animation? And I feel like because Never Hike Alone reached its sort of pinnacle with Never Hike Alone 2, I still have interest in telling Friday the 13th stories, but not necessarily raising tons of funds to then get out there and do the crazy logistics it is to do these films, but something that we could control over animation and keep continuing these stories, sort of looking into the past, going into places and watching stories about Jason and doing things in animation that you can't do in live action, especially when it comes with the gore and getting creative and, getting a little comical in a way too. And I think just kind of getting the shock factor out, which I think is a lot of fun. And so that's what Animated did. I met some folks at Mako Animation, which is actually based in Mexico. And then there's Ruby Armas, who does Armas Productions. And so it's the three of us plus Cinescare Productions who are sort of rallying this project. Right now, you can watch the first sort of like little act of it on our YouTube page. It's a storyboard animatic, but it brings you all the way up to the first kill. It introduces you to the characters and sort of the vibe of what we're going for. The look is going to be sort of like Sin City. So everything's in black and white stylized with accents of red and yellow because Jason uses the yellow axe, other yellow weapons and things like that. I don't want to give anything away. But it really is sort of like this great playground. It's a short film. It's about 10 minutes long. And what we're trying to do with this campaign is basically two things: get the funding for Ghost in the Fog so we can add it to this Blu-ray that we have coming out, the final cut that was successfully crowdfunded last year. And that's going to be part of a box set that we've built of the entire Never Hike Alone library. So there's the original films, there's Never Hike Alone, Never Hike in the Snow, and Never Hike Alone 2. There's the Ghost Cut, which is a huge anthology of them. Yeah, you got them all. So the Ghost Cut is an anthology of the new Ghost Cut's going to be an anthology of all 3 films. So they're going to be cut together, but the credits will be in between. It'll just be the films laid out. If you just want to sit down and watch it in one sitting, like as a marathon, that gives you that with some bonus scenes and some sort of like little bonusy things in there that make it a fun watch. And then the final cut, which we're working on right now, is a seamless cut of the Never Hike Alone franchise. So there's no titles, there's no, stopping for the next movie. The movies weave into one another seamlessly with one new title introduction, maybe some different scenes cut in that weren't in there before. So maybe you're reordering some of the shots, maybe choosing different shots. So scenes may be alternated, and it's sort of like our Blade Runner director's cut in a way where it's just a different look at it. It's the same material, a different type of score, a different, better sound effects in some places. We're going to go back in and tweak some of the VFX and clean those up. So when we made the Never Hike Alone films, we were really sort of rushed through production and especially post-production at the end to get them out and do those things. And what the final cut is our chance to go back and get all those CBBs, the could be betters. Like, all right, now we're going to go back in and maybe we'll have the shells popping out of the gun this time. Maybe we'll see the chambers moving. Maybe we'll do some stuff with the gun splats. Maybe we can, amplify the head explosion in Never Hike Alone and Never Hike in the Snow. Maybe, all these different things that we've talked about, little things of like when you see the guts hanging out of the nurse in the film, like Tyler going in and doing something, like you actually see the guts kind of like pulsating and moving and things like. So there you go. Adding those little touches that really sort of put a cap on the work that we've done over the last 8 years. And then on that disc, we add Ghost in the Fog, which is a fun, it's a 3-kill short, 3 inventive kills that are really fun. We're going to have the folks from Dead Meat in there. So Chelsea Rebecca and Zoran Govokchik will be playing 2 of the leads. The other lead will be played by Diego Valenzuela. James is obviously cheering us on and using Dead Meat to help sort of amplify our voice with it. So yeah, we're going into our final weekend. Friday the 13th is on Friday. We're hoping for a big boost. I think we probably just crossed 20 grand. If you grabbed a vinyl, then we might be over the limit.
I'm going to take credit for all 20. No, I'm just joking.
There you go. Yeah, no, and so that's what it is. We're in our kind of final stretch right now. The good news is no matter what, if you back this campaign, it's a flexible funded campaign. All the perks are paid for. So if we don't necessarily fund the short right away, we are going to give the perks. So the perks are already in production. Like a lot of the stuff is kind of already half made, and we just got to make some of the new stuff that we've made. That will be taken care of. We'll take a small portion of these funds and put it into Ghost in the Fog to sort of animate more pieces of it. And then we'll come back at a later date and we'll show you what we've animated and see if there's any, interest to maybe fund the next part. Because if we break up the parts into certain areas, like one section is like $12,000. There's a smaller section that's worth $6,000. And then there's another bigger section that's probably somewhere around like $12,000 to $14,000. That's sort of the ending and all that stuff. On the campaign, people can get simple things like Blu-rays, VHS tapes, T-shirts, posters. We have really cool artwork that was done by Josh Beamish, who's he does artwork for Cavity Colors and a bunch of other well-known horror brands. There's ghost hospbacks, there's vinyls. And then what was the thing I wanted to get? Oh yeah, you can get a missing persons poster, so you can appear in the film and you're going to get animated. So you animated face on a missing persons poster. There is one executive producer credit left. And if you get that executive producer credit, you can name the last character. His name's Dom right now, and then it's played by Diego, but you can get the character named after anyone you want it named after, except for like Poopy McShithead. You can't do that. And you can get the likeness made like yourself or someone that it can be a gift to somebody if you want, if your son or your daughter, or I mean, it's a guy character, so it might be. I don't think we're going to gender swap because it might be too expensive to do that. But there is some really cool stuff in there. We hope that fans just check it out and really just give it a look.
Hell yeah, for sure. Hey, I know a guy that does some matte painting. If you want to work in some more work on that for when you're putting everything together.
I got some other work for him coming up. So he's probably going to be working on the final cut.
Oh, perfect. Hell yeah.
The cool thing about what we're doing actually with Ghost in the Fog is sort of like what they did with Killer of Killers and Predator, is that we're actually building the world. We've already built the world in Unreal Engine. In fact, I think 2 weeks ago on the Ghost Files, we did a tour of our Crystal Lake. So instead of building matte paintings, what actually we have is a 3D environment that we've built. And so we place the 2D elements in 3D background or in the 3D environment, and then we just draw to that perspective. And so it really makes things move fast. It really cuts down our time. And we just move a camera around just like we would in 3D. And then we just jump in there. That's
what, Matt's been working in Unreal for quite some time now. So that's become his bread and butter. So anything you need for whatever part of that cut you're putting together, you know who to reach out to.
All right,
guys, again, the link is pinned in the chat. It's also in the description. It's right there at the top. And then to follow WOMP Stomp, all those links are in the description as well as for our guy, Mark, Tales from the Shelf, who's been hanging out patiently. Mark, I know that you've been pumped for this to be able to, we've done a few of these, and how cool is it to have a guest on, and not just any guest, but the guy that is the voice of the fans in the Friday the 13th world. How are you doing, Mark, and how pumped are you for tonight, man?
I'm doing good, man. I'm definitely excited. Been looking forward to this. I can't follow up that great pitch. No, I'm very looking forward to this, and it's an honor to be here with Vince as well.
No, it's fun to be. I mean, I can't wait to just talk Friday. I mean, this is the best week. I mean, Friday the 13th fans eat well on weeks that it's Friday the 13th. Got 3 next year, which is going to be great. But it's Jason's birthday Friday, so I mean, I figured I'd be busy this week.
and
go ahead, Davey.
You're going to be over on Facci Cinema tomorrow, which I'm really looking forward to that. Facci's been doing a whole redo review series of the Friday the 13th films with a bunch of just awesome guests. So really looking forward to that. Sorry, Mark, you were about to say something and I've been talking. So you do your thing.
I was just going to say, that's why we wanted to do this on the Wednesday ahead of the actual Friday the 13th. Just
sure.
It was going to be a little hectic.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Vin, it's like you're busy all the time anyways, let alone to ask something of you on Friday the 13th week is I'm holding my hat out please, sir.
No, I mean, this, I want to, I'm definitely down, I'm always down to do a podcast and I always love hanging out with you, dude. So it's, no big deal. I love it. I'm glad you hit me up.
Yeah,
and you got me early too. So
yeah, no, that was the thing. I was like, I know it might be a thing. So let's figure out what day works. And yeah, guys, this is going to be great because not only are we going to go through these categories, and be able to, give a point to each film per category, but we're going to have the audience involved in voting who they think the winner of each category is as well. So I gave it a big old thing at the beginning of the stream. This is the most important, hotly debated item in middle America for the last 40 years, is which one of these movies are better. We're going to figure it out tonight, guys. And yeah, let's, I'm going to go over the categories and then we can go ahead and get started here. So we're going to go through the setup and the story. We're going to do supporting cast and comedic relief. I put those together because I figured like they go hand in hand. The atmosphere and the direction. The look and portrayal of Jason. So not just the way he looks, but the way he's acted as well and performed. The music and the sound design, because that is massively important here. Our final characters, visual effects and kills, and then the finale. And basically what I'm going to do for this, what I figure we would do, because Mark, you and I have done a few of these. I usually, give the ball to you to start things off. I figured since we've got a guest this time, we just toss it over to Vin and let Vin kind of say his piece on each one of these. And then it'll go to you, Mark. And then I can chime in and we can all decide, which film we're voting for. And while that happens, we'll get the poll going for everyone in the chat. So guys, make sure you voice your opinion in the poll. If you haven't liked the stream yet, please like the stream. If you're watching after the fact, thank you so much. It really helps a lot to give the stream a second life. But let us know in the comments what you prefer between these two films as far as all these categories go. Or if you just want to give your general thoughts, that's cool too. So yeah, guys, are you pumped? Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So setup and story, final chapter versus Jason Lives. Now, Vin, usually what we do is we kind of just like, kind of talk about each film a little bit, and then it'll sort of just lead you to which film you think would win the point here for setup and story for you.
I mean, but we're each taking a side, right? Or are we just saying like,
you can, well, usually we talk about both films and just sort of like, this is what I get from this film. This is what I get from the other. I think this film wins this point because of this and this. So we kind of just do, it's not even like we each pick a side. We attribute a point to each category, but we kind of let ourselves talk it out, like a little bit of a discussion. So you don't have to pick, you could vote for half and half, you know what I mean? Okay. And let the audience take care of the rest or however you're feeling.
Yeah, I mean, when you look, first of all, we're talking about, in my opinion, the two best films in the franchise. So it's really like, it's like a winner's a winner here. I mean, they're both sort of the best in the the best of what the franchise sort of has to offer. You have a fully matured Jason in part 4, sort of like reaching the echelon of who Jason was to us. I mean, like Jason really didn't become Jason till final chapter. You know what I mean? Like he was Jason in part 3 and Richard Brooker did a great job. But there's something about the final chapter, Jason, that I think really sort of like nailed that tone and sort of got there. And like the continuation of 2, 3, 4. So coming into 4, starting in the barn, I think that's I think atmospherically as an opening, as a setup, we've already been on 2 other films. This is like the third part now of this extension. And to open up in the barn and to sort of have that sort of, first responders there and setting up the scene that Jason is dead. And that this, the story is supposed to be over. And the fact that he comes back and he revives is sort of like, at the time in the 80s was almost like a running joke because they really didn't have an explanation for how Jason came back. And I actually did get to sit down with Joe Zito at a dinner once. They were doing a screening of Final Chapter. I was in 13 Fanboy with Judy Aronson and I asked her for a poll and she pulled me into this screening. I got to go out with the entire cast and I said, Joe, is Jason dead or alive? And he said Jason is undead and that he resurrects in the morgue. And so that was an interesting sort of like aspect to me, in the fact that they really just sort of like let it happen. They don't explain it. There's a little bit of like Axel's kind of fooling around with the nurse and that sort of revives him in some way, you could say.
It's like the breath in the locker, right? You're talking about that moment where you see that little bit of the breath shine through the light, right?
Yeah, there's a little bit of a shuffle when he's underneath the things, and when they pull him in, and you put the sandwich on top of him. It's a really casual, like, I feel like final chapter has a nice sort of continuation, and it's sort of getting there, and it moves along, and it's sort of visceral. But if I had to go for setup and story, there is no better setup and story than part 6. The opening of part 6 is like a rock show. It starts off with there's none of that cheap recap. There's no like spending 5 minutes to extend the story because we're going to show a little bit of part 3 and then we'll get into part 4. It's you know what I mean? We're getting right into the movie. Tommy's driving down the road. You got the adult Tommy Jarvis. You got Horshack in the seat. You got the lightning and the thunder. And digging up Jason, the lightning, Jason punching Horseshack. I mean, it's you're talking about an opening that's like a condensed, fiery opening versus the final chapter sort of has like a slow start. It sort of gets going because Jason's already dead, and then he comes back. I mean, from the moment you get into part 6, you are just rocketing into the movie. You're in it. You feel the energy, and I think if I had to tip a cap for which one I think has the better opening, I'm definitely gonna go Jason Lives. That's what I give that one.
Okay, so your setup and story goes to Jason Lives. I think that very apropos what you're saying there. I love the the Universal monster kind of Frankenstein opening. I love like Tom McLaughlin's whole approach to that opening. I think it's something that you even capture the spirit of at the beginning of Never Hike Alone 2. I feel that a little bit there. Mark, setup and story, the final chapter in Jason Lives. What are your thoughts, man?
Well, yeah, Vin, he lays it out really well, where it's like part 4, it's almost like a joke. It's so casual the way they bring him back, and it's like, with the hand, like he said, with the sandwich resting on him, like it's like, I guess we're doing this again. Like it's like very much just like so nonchalant, where like part 6, it feels epic, like it's very cinematic, and it just sets you up like that. Once it starts, it really doesn't stop. Like it's such a if we're talking about story, it's paced so well. Just not even just the opening, but just the way it extends beyond that. The whole 90-minute or whatever runtime is it's so tight. I feel like, and there's really no fat on it at all. Like it's just such a ride, and it's just so much fun. And I think part 6 really, there's no arguing. I think here that the setup at least is way better. At, how how cinematic and exciting that opening is, and the idea that we're cementing here that he is without a doubt like a zombie more or less is interesting, and I think it's a nice little, it's different, which I think we desperately need at this point in the franchise. And I think this movie couldn't have come along at a better time, where obviously I love all of these movies for different reasons, but at this point we definitely needed something new, and I feel like part 6 brings that while also feeling familiar. I think it walks that tightrope really well, where I guess we can talk about this with the story, but we've got kids at the camp, which we haven't seen yet, which is exciting. Absolutely. And that's different, and that's fun, and I think I have to go part 6 for setup and story.
Go ahead, Vin.
No, I was gonna say, you just reminded me too, as far as like story goes. Like part 4 really isn't about anything. You know what I mean? It's like a John Hughes movie about a bunch of kids trying to get laid and smoke dope and get in trouble, and sort of like that's sort of the movie. It's just a John Hughes, kids go out to the camp and get killed. Whereas part 6, I mean, you feel Tommy carrying the story. There's something driving there about what he needs to do with Jason. The kids trying to reopen the camp. They have something to do. They're not just trying to get laid. They're trying to reopen this camp and doing it shorthanded. So it pulls you into the fact that like people are actually doing something in the movie. The sheriff is trying to do something about it. Every character has a purpose. No one's just standing around waiting to die, except for maybe the paintball people, but they were added in later anyway.
Yeah, no, part 4 does feel like a boner comedy, like an 80s, like a last American.
It's a good one. I think that's what makes it so good.
It
is Last American Virgin. It's got the same guy, the guy that plays Teddy.
Is it not? Yeah, so it's like the same thing. Yeah, no, and I was gonna say as well, the fact that there's kids there as well, that feels like there's added stakes that we haven't had before.
There's real danger.
Yeah, exactly. And
what did you want to be when you grew up?
Yeah.
That
Exactly. Like,
there's some really funny moments in part 6 too. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. We will definitely, we'll get to that for sure. And yeah, I think the same kind of thing. I think the final chapter, it is just sort of like, it's a quintessential 80s slasher in so many ways, but also to that effect, it doesn't have much of a story. It is just like everything that Siskel and Ebert, all the terrible things they say about these movies. I think the final chapter is better than what they're saying, but in a way they're not technically wrong about some of that. And it is like, I mean, if you think of this like a trilogy, this is like the very first act that it introduces Tommy as a little kid. But I think that what we get in Jason Lives is like the, slickly edited, like, just action-packed Return of the Jedi minus the Ewoks. Or I guess if you want to call the campers the Ewoks. There's just something really fun about Jason Lives to where with the setup and the story, it feels like this thing never slows down. And I've got to give my point to Jason Lives here as well. I think that it absolutely rules in this category. Let's see what we've got for our poll. We have 23 votes, guys. It's really close. 52% to 48% for the final chapter. Wow. So guys, if you
got a bunch of old heads in the chat,
there you go. We got some stubborn people. No, I'm just joking. I'm one of the old heads. If you haven't voted yet, put in your vote. I'll let you vote for, let's see here, until it becomes 6:45 Arizona time. Once that happens, I'm going to end the poll regardless of how it goes. 23 votes, and it looks like it's just one vote better for final chapter right now. So once that hits 6:45, I'm closing it and then awarding the point. Oh, there we go. It is closed. The point from the audience goes to the final chapter. So we've got Jason Lives is 3. The final chapter is 1. All right. And, Brett, before you start yelling that it's rigged here, at least let us get halfway through the contest, okay?
Just categories to go, man.
Yeah, and again, I want to remind folks, and Mark, you can speak to this as well, because we've had these where we clearly prefer one of the movies and the other movie ends up winning, because guys, we're really fair about how we award these points. We don't just award the point to the movie we prefer better. We truly give the point. I take this shit seriously, to the movie that does the job better. So I prefer Terminator over T2. It's just the way I am. Terminator 2 ended up winning, partially because we both gave the finale. I think we both gave the finale to T2, and that put it over.
We've been pretty lockstep as far as like how we award our points, but we do a good job of really trying to remain objective and like showing our work and kind of how we arrive at these points.
For sure. And now we have like Vin here to really be the referee and hold us accountable.
The more voices and as well as the audience vote, I think will make this a lot more interesting.
For sure. Hell yeah. Okay, guys. So having said that, it is 3-1 Jason Lives over the final chapter. And now we're going to be moving on over to our supporting cast and comedic relief. I have the feeling this one's going to be a bit closer. So Vin, we'll start with you yet again. How do you feel these movies both deal with their supporting cast and their comedic relief? Which is the better film in that regard?
I mean, they're both very strong in this regard. Before I give my point, I'll just kind of go over them. Like, the final chapter has such a good cast, and that's the John Hughes of it all. Everyone is funny. Everyone has even though they don't have much to do, watching them do stuff is fun. They have a very beautiful cast too. Shout out to Judy Aronson. And like Ted and Jimmy and Ted are just, they're just a great buddy comedy of them going through their little arc. Everything they do is pretty funny and going through that. Tommy is pretty funny, him watching the girls out the window and sort of like jumping around. I feel like, just as far as like the cast and the supporting cast goes, it's really tough to decide between these two, because when you go look at Jason Lives, again, you have such a great cast. Sheriff Garris and Rick Colon are a great antagonist as far as like the human antagonist. All the kids at the camp are very fun to hang out with. You want to hang out with Court. You want to hang out with those people. What is it, Tony? What from Ghost? You know, opens up the movie in a way like, you know, when we get to him. So even the side characters are pretty good. I would say there is maybe a little bit of an oversaturation at certain times with Jason Lives because they were really trying to cram extra characters in. So like the paintball scene is fun, but the characters are a little arch. You know what I mean? I love Cindy and everything, but like all of a sudden there's people doing the, you know, they had to shoot that scene and add that scene with the people in the park and kill Martin as well. You know, Martin the caretaker is really great as a supporting character. You know, as far as like Jennifer Cook, what was Megan? It was Megan as a great, you know, as a great final girl, but you know, balance for Tommy and them. You know, there's a really good there. I think, I mean, if I think I'm going with supporting cast and who's strong, and who really takes it, I just think that this is a place where I'm going to lean Final Chapter. I'm thinking about splitting it, but I think Final Chapter is just one of those things where the cast really sort of, it's just so tight. It's just such a tight cast. I don't know how you break that, especially with just Jimmy's dance and everything. It's just everything feels really natural. It is not that it didn't feel natural in Lives. I just feel like it's a little bit of an oversaturated cast in Lives, if that makes sense. Not everything lands, but I feel like there's less is more in this sense, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm going to lean that way for this one.
All right. Mark, what you got?
It's hard not to go right to Final Chapter with this, just because of you know, Crispin Glover and Teddy Bear. You know, those two alone, I think, are just such a great pairing, and you know, I love their on-screen chemistry. They actually feel like they would be friends, even though they kind of are like dicks to each other. Like, but like that's how you kind of are with your buddies. Sometimes, you know, you bust each other's balls, and I like their dynamic. They're both pretty funny. But Jason Lives has some great funny stuff too. But it does feel, it almost feels like there's like these vignettes kind of added as well. Like there's the people, the couple who are driving late at night, and you know, they encounter Jason with like, you know, there's the credit card and stuff. The paintballers.
Yeah, they're the actual like lead counselors that never show up.
Yeah, exactly. So it makes sense for them to be there. The paintball people, maybe it feels a little more out of place. Still fun, still classic. The
nighttime picnic, like what's up with that nighttime picnic? Who does that?
There's a lot more going on. I feel like where, like Vince said, Final Chapter is just tighter, and I think the dynamics. I mean, how can you beat Crispin Glover? I mean, that dance is iconic. Ted, where the hell's the corkscrew? You know, is iconic as well.
Yeah, and short but sweet screen time. Axel is like hilarious. Like,
oh my god, how could I forget about Axel, dude? Yeah, incredible stuff.
Yeah, Axel with the booty aerobics tape that they brought back in Dirty Work, Norm Macdonald's Dirty Work. That's a great you know, reference there. He's also the klutz guy from the Police Academy movies and the rabbi that tells everyone's secrets in Seinfeld. He's got some great bit roles throughout. And I love Crispin Glover's in the car when he's like, God, I'm horny.
So horny, yeah.
Yeah. Like there's something about
bit.
Yes,
it's a great running gag. So good. Oh my god,
it's all great. Yeah, I think I've got to give my point to the Final Chapter here as well, and partly because of what we were talking about on the previous topic, like because the movie doesn't have much of a story, yet here it is. So many people are like, "This is my favorite in the franchise." I think that says something, not only about like the way that Jason is portrayed and the kills and everything. I think it really says something about the chemistry of the cast. How everyone, you know, works well together. Even the characters that are kind of throwaway and silly are believably so. And of course, Judy Aronson, who I think is the most beautiful actress of all time. I don't think I've seen a more, I don't know. I get butterflies every time I watch this movie because of her. So Vin, jealous. Next time she's around, tell me so I can run away because I'm too afraid to meet her. But yeah, I got to give. Yeah, I bet she is. She is just, man, I love her. Screw you, Paulie. Just like how like soft she is about it all, you know? So yeah, I gotta, and again, you know, Corey Feldman, super charming. I love the skinny dipping scene. I just think that's like, when you watch that as a kid, you're like, oh, this looks like fun. You know, there's just something so much, or that's so fun about this cast. And I do think they bring the comedic relief, even though with Jason Lives, I do love like the inner like Sheriff Garris, the way he talks to Tommy, especially in the jail, is like this old timey like Humphrey Bogart, like 40s, 50s. There's something I love so much about how old timey it feels, but it really has this rhythm, this rat-a-tat-tat with the way the lines are written and the way they're delivered. There's this cadence to them. So Jason Lives have supporting cast and characters that I love. The kids are hilarious. Like you had mentioned, Vin, what did you want to do when you grew up? All that kind of stuff. What do they think? I'm a fart head, all of that. But final chapter, no one's talking about it the way they are if it's not, you know, if the cast isn't this great together. So there you go. And this one, the final chapter, is winning heavily, 20 votes, 75% to 25%. I think it is fair to say that this one is going to the final chapter, guys. So I'm going to end the poll there. And let's see here. That means that the final chapter got 4 points. And the Jason Lives got none, guys. So it's 5-3 final chapter right now.
Wow.
In the lead. How about that? Yeah, Jay Beach, I do think Dirty Work, it is an absolute classic. One of my favorite comedies of all time right there. Yeah, absolutely. Talk about an easy movie to watch. Okay, guys, next category here that we've got is the atmosphere and the direction. So, Vin, do you want to take this one away on how you feel about these two films and which one you feel has the better atmosphere and direction?
Yeah, what I love about Final Chapter is the darkness. It's a very dark film. A lot of rain, a lot of lightning. You know, it kind of really feels like the first movie where they did, you know, play with that, the storm coming in and everything. You know, in part 2, they got to play with it a little bit too. In part 3, it got really bright. So as they did the 3D camera, so they had to light everything much brighter. They did more wind than they did rain. And so it was nice that Zito really brought in that sort of that tone and that feel from the Prowler. You know, when you go back and you watch the Prowler and then you watch Final Chapter, you understand why they chose Zito and what he brought to it. And sort of the pairing of the way that his camera work and visceral nature of you know, his approach with Jason, just setting up the scenes in conjunction with Tom Savini and the way that he executes the effects in that way too. And I know we're going to get to effects in a little bit, but that does have to do with the atmosphere and the way that things look, you know, the way that things are there. Everything is very dark. Everything is very violent. You know, everything is very scary. You know, it's a very scary film. It's not, there's no light, like there's lightheartedness to it to a certain degree, but when it turns it, I mean, it really twists the screws. And Jason is a mean son of a bitch. And just the feel of the entire thing, you know, I think that was Zito's sort of like real, you know, really standing on his toes here and like, and giving it all. Is like, you really feel that in the film, you know, but that's not to say that Jason Lives doesn't have its own set of atmosphere and good direction as well. Tom is one of my favorite directors. You know, obviously Lives is my favorite film. The atmosphere is great. Again, starting with the opening scene, it sets the atmosphere and the tone right away. Atmospheric is, you know, as far as it goes into like, we're in the camp, you know, we're spending time at the camp. Jason is running around Crystal Lake causing a muck. You know, the entire just sort of like feel the entire movie is just very coherent and feels seamless in a way. And then the way that everything, where I would say Final Chapter is a consistent tone that Jason Lives builds in a way that really kind of brings it to a really big crescendo. And that final scene where you have, you know, Jason and Tommy in the lake with the fire and sort of that, you know, it sort of brings it to another level. I feel like Joe Zito really executed the best of what the core 4 of the original Fridays were. You can even put part 5 in there because part 5 really sticks to that tone. Tom McLaughlin really set the tone for the next half of the franchise for what was coming with 7 and 8 and 9. And even though I don't think Buechler and Rob Hedden and those that follow could really pick up the torch in the way that Tom did it, Tom was really the only one to be successful with that sort of formula. And the rest, they made movies and they have good parts in those movies, but Tom was the only one that really delivered a huge hit. So if I have to go for atmosphere and direction, I think for this one, I'm going to split half and half, because I think that both executed at top level. It's tough to pick one over the other. because it's the best of both worlds, I think, right here. So I'm going to go 50-50 on this one.
All right. Half a point. That's our first half a point, I think, Mark. I guess we'll allow it on account of considering the swords there.
We get halves.
You can do halves. Yeah, you can do halves. Mark, what do you got? Atmosphere and direction for these two films. What are you thinking?
All great points made there. I think I have to lean on the side of Jason Lives with this one, just because there are so many. I guess this would fall under this topic, but like there are so many iconic shots in Jason Lives that I don't think Final Chapter quite measures up to. Like I think of the opening. There are so many just in that opening alone. And then there's like on him standing on top of the ambulance, with the flames and everything, and then all of
the RV.
Oh yeah. Excuse me. And then all of the stuff at the lake. Like it feels like a film crafted with a director at the helm, and it's not just like an interchangeable. Not to say that any of these films have that, but like, with some lesser horror franchises, perhaps you could say like the director didn't quite matter because, But this is not the case with either of these, especially in the case of Jason Lives, where it feels like someone had ideas they were actively trying to execute and like had a reason behind it. So I would have to go with Jason Lives on that. Not to say that Final Chapter isn't pulling its weight in this category, because it is very. I do love all the rain and everything. It's very like I feel like the thunder adds such an external component to the horror, where it's like. It's not even safe to be outside, regardless of, the slashings going on, which I find I love that about a camp slasher, where it almost feels like the environment is sort of against you as well, and like the nature of being at a camp, it's sort of isolated by definition. So like, civilization's not, just right around the corner. So I do think that you get a lot of that in Final Chapter, but I have to go Jason Lives on this one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to go Jason Lives as well. I do think, the Final Chapter has there's a reason why it looks like a quintessential slasher. I think it is sort of like a paint by numbers of what we have come to expect from that. And I think Zito, like I love The Prowler, and I really enjoy the Final Chapter. For a long time, it was my favorite in the franchise. But I do think it is a little more... plug and play with the elements, kind of like what you were saying, Vin, just where those first four, even leading into five, just have that kind of template. And I think Tom McLoughlin went in with, he's like, I'm going to do something different. This is going to be an homage to the films that I grew up loving. And I'm also going to find a way to bring this Jason story into things. I'm going to do something that's going to be totally new for the franchise. And I think he accomplishes that greatly. We've already talked about the opening scene and how awesome that is. Vin, you had mentioned the finale, which we'll talk about later, but I love how the storm rages back as the movie goes on. I think that's a really great element with the atmosphere. But ultimately, the direction of how he chose to approach, the side characters, some kind of meta moments there, even like the James Bond opening, which we haven't mentioned, I think is a part of Tom's direction, where it does have a direction that this movie would not be. Jason Lives would not be what it is without Tom McLoughlin. The Final Chapter could have been damn near close to what it was without Joseph Zito. And I think that's one thing that I love about, I'm a big like documentary watcher or like commentary listener. And it's like, and Vin, I know that you've gotten to know Tom, throughout the years. You feel like you get to know him from listening to those commentaries. And you really do feel like he was driven with purpose on Jason Lives, whereas the Final Chapter just would have happened the way it was regardless. So I give my point to Jason Lives.
Is he one of the Tom McLoughlin? Is he like sort of the first person to sort of assign that sort of idea or this notion of like the 80s slasher villains being essentially akin to your Frankensteins, your Draculas? Like, was he sort of the first guy to ever kind of make that point? Because I've heard it since then, but I feel like that was a novel thing at the time, right?
Yeah, that was, he definitely took it in a new direction with that and giving it, because if you look at everything that was sort of prior to it, everything was kind of spawning off of Halloween and the first couple of Friday the 13th. So everyone was going for that gritty sort of feel. And I feel like, Steve Miner, I mean, you talk about Sean Cunningham making Friday the 13th, but I feel like the real godfather of Friday the 13th is Steve Miner, the guy, 2 and 3, who really set the tone. I mean, he took what Sean did and expanded it and created that lore for Jason. I feel like between even Steve is sort of very dismissive of like trying to get into what Jason is and how to explain anything that happened. He just sort of like glosses over it and just says, don't worry about the motivation. You just want to kill her. Those types of lines and things like that. And I feel like Zito approached it in that same way. He didn't really think too hard about it. He just did his thing and he set up his style. I think what I give him credit for is just bringing it back into that darker tone. But like you guys said, Tom McLaughlin expanded the series. He was the one who shifted it into that supernatural world, who really took the supernatural step where we got to see an evolution of Jason. It wasn't just Jason kind of getting up and coming back down. There was an evolution now. There was something like, wow, he's really never going to go down. He's going to keep coming back in such a, fantastic way. It really comes, it's kind of one of those things. It's like Final Chapter is a violent movie. If you like violent slashers, I mean, like there's some violent stuff in 3, but it's kind of goofy because the 3D makes it goofy and there's some bad effects in there too. Part 2 has some really great scares. Part 2 is underrated, I think, in many different ways, but I feel like Part 6 is like Part 4 and Part 2 had a baby and actually just made a decision on Jason and actually started to put that together and made it a bigger movie. So yeah, you guys leaning this way totally makes sense. I feel like I could change my vote, but I think I'm going to stick to my guns. I feel like they're both my favorite directors, so I can't choose.
Yeah, I think to just piggyback on that and give my own answer, since I talk a lot on this channel. I think that Tom McLaughlin is responsible for making the slasher villain the hero. I think that's what Jason Lives did, because shortly thereafter, Freddy started becoming like more comedic and more of like the anti-hero of his series. So I think that McLaughlin kind of kicked off this kind of phase, where even like in the later Chucky movies, he kind of went that direction as well. So I'm going to give him the credit. He's a total rock star. He has rock star hair. He still does. Looks like he could be a Night Ranger or something like that. Love Tom McLaughlin so much. All right, guys. And then the poll, we have 22 votes. The Final Chapter is winning this one with 59% of the vote. Man, there is just zero discernibility in the chat right now. I'm just
telling you, just
I'm fucking with you guys.
Bunch of homers out there.
So, guys, it's really close, though. It is 6.5 to 5.5 in favor of the Final Chapter. So, that's the fun thing about the way this goes, is there's a little bit of back and forth from time to time. So, yeah, guys, let's see here. The next item on the docket, the look and the portrayal of Jason. So Vin, take her away. How do you feel about these movies as far as not only the way that Jason looks, but the performance behind the man behind the mask?
Man, this one's so tough. I think I'm going to save my vote to the end after I listen to you guys make your points too. All
right. Fair enough.
I mean, again, both my favorite Jasons, both my favorite actors playing Jason, Ted White and CJ Graham, do an amazing job in what they're going to do. I guess I'll start with, obviously the positives of both is that they both have the stature. I believe Ted White was like 6'4". I think CJ's around the same thing, 6'4", 6'5", a little bit bulkier. You got to give a shout out to Dan Bradley for his scene, doing the paintball stuff, getting fired for being too fat. That's kind of.
But that ass is amazing.
Hams.
Oh my goodness! Holy cow!
But things turned out well for Dan Bradley. He became one of the most quintessential first ADs to exist in Hollywood. He worked on some of the biggest projects, and he directed the remake of what's the movie where Russia invades America?
Oh, Red Dawn.
Red Dawn. Yeah, he did the remake of Red Dawn actually. But yeah, I think that I used to love Jason Lives, Jason, and I think over the years, the yellow gloves have gotten to me. It's something that just kind of sticks out to me. And I think, like, why didn't they let us see his hands? His hands would have been so cool looking in that movie because they would have been skeletal. And we do see them in the opening when he rips out his heart. I think that I wish they would have stuck with that. I think the utility belt gets a little goofy too, but the overall look of Jason coming out of the grave, the undead look, the look of the face, the fact that when he gets out and you see his face and it's so shadowed, you can kind of see what's there, but you can't see what's there. And there's something very, very scary about that. I think the mask looks very good. we don't know where the mask comes from, whether it's one that Tommy made at the hospital, whether it's the one from the final chapter, what that is. Never had that officially told, but the mask from final chapters is good too. I mean, we have, it's got the iconic, an actual bloody, hockey mask with the blood coming down the mask from getting hit in the axe. And again, like the portrayal and what they've done, each of them do like just amazing things in the costume. Their kills are good. They're visceral. They dispatch their victims with haste and with power. It's really, I mean, I don't know which way to lean on this one. I really got to sit back and listen to you guys make some points.
All right, Mark, take it away.
Mine is pretty surface level. As far as this goes, I'm going Ted White, final chapter on this one, just because I don't like the gloves, like Vince said. I don't like sort of the more, he looks almost like more like a gardener, kind of like he's, I don't know, like it's very petty, but that's sort of, I think it's more effective in final chapter. He just looks a little more just a little bit more like Jason, I guess. This is kind of really the only time we see him look that way in Jason Lives, right? Like this is kind of the only time we've ever seen him look this particular way. So I don't dislike it, but I think the look in final chapter is a little just more what we would become accustomed to, and it's a little more
less is more.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like they kind of overthought it a little bit with Jason Lives. Like, how can we make him look a little different where maybe they didn't need to do so much.
Even the small detail of giving him the black nails, the black extended nails, and like his hand was just scarier. You don't want that hand to grab you.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, when he grabs the nurse and shoves her against the wall, there's a really cool camera movement that's just off to the side. It just makes it feel visceral. Yeah, that look.
And the shower scene too, when he's smashing that head against the tile, you just see that gnarly hand wrapped around his head. It's insane.
Yeah, this one, I like the way that Jason looks in Jason Lives. I don't mind the gloves as much. The utility belt, like, I like seeing him use some different implements of destruction and all that. And I like how he's a little more, I don't know. There's something, that scene in the finale when he's like having to choose between Megan and Tommy, and he's got a little bit of that kind of robot, like back and forth look. I like those mannerisms. But I am going to go with the final chapter on this one. I think Ted White puts in a great performance. He's hulking as Jason. Mask looks great. But you know what really does it for me? It's the grunting and the running. We never see, like, since in part 2, Jason runs. In part 3, he doesn't. In part 4, he does. And then we never see him run ever again. There is something about, like, he feels a little more like a real threat and not a quintessential slasher villain that just like walks and finds themselves there. And the grunting is like, I don't know what it is with slashers. Same thing with like Michael Myers. Like when you hear Michael breathing and struggling when he's taking out his victims, to me, that is scarier. It's more effective. And it just brings a realism to it that I really enjoy. So, and I got to give it up to Ted White, because he was like 50 years old or something when he played Jason. You would not be able to tell it. He is very nimble and beyond capable at his job here. Yeah, he is. I mean, John Wayne's stunt double, and he's got all that, hardworking John Wayne up in him. So yeah, I've got to give it to Ted White and the final chapter here for the look and portrayal of Jason.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with peer pressure. I'm going with final chapter. The gloves did it. Gloves.
Yeah, the gloves did it. And guys, the audience again.
We already know.
A bunch of homers. Guys, should I just stop pulling you in the audience? Are you guys ever going to be fair about it? I mean, this one was fair. So, but are you ever going to be fair about it? I guess we'll see.
There's a couple things coming up.
So 4 points go to the final chapter, 0 to Jason Lives. The final chapter is now winning 10.5 to 5.5. Oh my gosh.
Oh geez, we need a sweep.
Off the rails.
Anything could happen here, man. Anything could happen.
Anything could happen. I think this category might be the one, folks. Because I think this one is easy. Even the homers, I don't know if they could say anything about it. because next up we're talking about the music and the sound design. So Vin, you want to take it away here?
Oh yeah, the music. I mean, no doubt about it. Final chapter feels like an extension of the previous three, removing the disco theme. And it, you know, he didn't really come up with anything new for that one. I don't feel, you know, I feel like it maybe got a little bit bigger from the first movie. You know, probably had a little bit more budget, got to play with the sounds a little bit more. But for the most part, you know, it's pretty classic Friday the 13th. Everything changes at the start of Jason Lives. He takes it to another level. He brings that supernatural feel to it with Harry in that one. And I think, you know, it really just sort of really stands out. It's one of those scores that really stands out. Like if you played me something from the final chapter, I wouldn't be able to tell you if it was from the final chapter or part 3 or part 2. Like the only way you can choose part 3 out of the first 3 is that has more French horns. But other than that, you know, part 4 and 2 and 1 sort of all blend together. But you put any one from part 6 in there and you know what it is. It stands out on its own. I'm definitely going Jason Lives on this.
Yeah. Mark, what you got?
Again, not a ton to add. Like Vince was saying, some of these, with the exception of 6 and 3, it can be hard to tell. Like if I did a blind listen and you had to have me pick which one it was from, I might not be able to do it. Obviously 3 I'd be able to tell you, and 6 are like the 2 off the top of my head, and maybe some of the later ones, you know, like the New Line era or whatever. But
and then when Fred Molin comes in for 8 too.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I have to go part 6. It feels a little more dare I say, like orchestral. Like it feels like it's, you know, trying to tap into more of that sort of classic Universal monster feel, which I think is sort of the underscoring thing that kind of underscores this whole movie in a way. So yeah, I gotta go with this. I gotta go Jason Lives.
Someone just talking shit on Lion.
I mean, yeah, I guess
I love it.
Talk about that too, right? Like the actual
music,
songs in the diegetic music.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's Alice Cooper, the chat's bringing it up. I mean, Teenage Frankenstein and Man Behind the Mask. I mean, 2 great contributions.
Got a music video. I mean, come on.
Yeah. And Mark, you're absolutely right. This taps into, it's one of the things that Tom McLaughlin brought in. You know, he is a musician as well, right, Vin? Doesn't he play music?
Yeah, he's in a band called the Sloths. He's the lead singer.
So he brings in this whole, like, it's not just the vision when it comes to direction.
Yeah, he is a rocker. I mean, he's got that rock vibe. I think he was in bands all the way, you know, starting back in the 60s. On Sunset Strip, playing Sunset Strip, being a front man, like stuff like that. So that's definitely in his nature. I mean, even to this day, when you see him, he's like head to toe.
Yeah, his big old hair,
tuxedo, long hair. Like, yeah, he's ready to rock all the time.
Yeah, and I think he brings, you know, with that vision he had as a director, as far as, you know, I do want to harken back to those Universal monster days and all that kind of stuff. I mean, he even wanted to shoot the opening scene and have it be in black and white. So I think that's a decision with the music as well, giving that direction to Harry as far as let's bring in more orchestral. Let's make it a bit more grand. So it has that grand Universal feel, and then they're bringing in that rock and roll. This one's got that MTV vibe for sure as far as the soundtrack versus the score goes. So yeah, for me, this one is super easy. It's Jason Lives all day. There's nothing wrong with the final chapter's music, but just kind of like with the story, it's not really doing anything different than what had come before. So
that's the big thing, right? Like it's just it's serviceable, but it's like in a franchise where the ones that do things different to stand out, I feel like it's so valuable. And it's really what's going to help you stand out amongst the pack. That you can't undervalue that, I think.
For sure. Yeah, you can't at all.
Copy paste in final chapter.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't think it's unfair to say that.
I think even if they use Back in Black for Crispin's Dance, I think it would have worked worse I think it works better because they don't have it match up.
I know, because the guy's vocals like, he's like Creed before Creed.
Yeah.
That's great.
Oh, it's so good. So good. All right, in the poll, we've got 20 votes. 75% of the folks are saying Jason Lives. So that's a clean sweep of the final chapter, followed by a clean sweep of Jason Lives. So, guys, we are at 10.5 to 9.5 with the final chapter
Let's go.
in the lead. The drama,
I
guys,
love when these are
again,
close.
this is
Yeah.
the most hotly
This is better
debated
than the
topic
NBA
in
Finals.
America. Yeah, way better than the NBA Finals, maybe even better than the Super Bowl. They should have us do the Super Bowl halftime show. It should just be us talking and discussing horror movies.
While puppies,
okay, guys.
play in the bottom.
Yeah.
Exactly. There we go. Puppies reenact the movies.
Yeah, puppies do Jason Lives. I'd do that.
There you go. Oh,
Air Bud
all right.
6.
We have 3 more categories, guys. So we have 12 more points to give out. Our next category coming up here is final characters. So what we got, Trish and Tommy from the final chapter, and Megan and Tommy from Jason Lives. Vin, you're the guest, so I'm handing it off to you yet again. What do you think?
Yeah, no shade to young Tommy, young Corey Feldman and Trish. I just, and shout out to Trish. I would just say before I shift to the other two, Trish does a hell of a job. She fights her ass off. She's a really great final girl. As far as like their sort of arc, and there's no arc between really Tommy and Trish. They're just brother and sister. They're just kind of there together to the time. I think that like their fight at the end is cool. I mean, it's a great ending to the movie. It's a little confusing as to like why Tommy thought shaving his head and looking like Jason would confuse Jason. I mean, he took a leap on that.
I've always found that so weird.
Yeah, very weird.
I've never.
He took a phone. He got a telegram from Ginny from part 2.
And it's sort of like, and the ending of part 4 is a little rudimentary. It's kind of simplistic. They're like, they're both kind of like calling out to each other, and there's a little bit of back and forth, but it's sort of very simple. But when you look at, I mean, this is one where I think Jason Lives runs away with it, because the chemistry between Tommy and Megan is just off the charts. They have scenes together that are really funny. The whole thing about there's gonna be a really hairy turn, and like, it's like, what do you think of my drawing? I think it sucks. All that stuff. I think that they're really good. They're Crush. You're rooting for them to get together, and then when they do get together and they do show up at the camp, you're worried, for Megan, because she's getting attacked by Jason, and Tommy's like throwing himself in front of him for that and calling him out to the water. And then again, like Tommy confronting Jason in this one head on, as the final guy. And I mean, obviously he was the final guy in 4 and 5, but I feel like this is the one where, like in 4, he's not really confrontational with Jason too much. In 5, he's sort of there for a minute, but it's up to Reggie and what's the final girl from
Pam? Reggie, it's me. It's Pam.
It's Pam.
Pam, Reggie.
But Pam and Reggie
are.
Yeah, Pam and Reggie do a little bit more of the work than Tommy does. Tommy kind of gets his ass kicked a little bit, but in this one, Tommy's like a super fighter. He's there with a plan. He's trying to do something. He's trying to put Jason down for good, and of course, he fucks it all up. But yeah, I'm leaning Megan and Tommy for this one.
Yeah, Mark, what you got?
I agree. I think, well, first of all, I think it's really cool how in this Jarvis trilogy, if you will, I don't know what the official, if there's a certain title that it carries, but I think it's cool that it sort of ends and sort of finishes the same, with him as a kid and being aided by Trish, and then kind of having it come full circle with him and Megan. I'm just kind of realizing now kind of how poetic that perhaps unintentionally was, but still it works thematically. And I just love the dynamic with him and Megan. It's more fully realized, and I wouldn't say that either one of them sort of supersedes the other. Like obviously Tommy is sort of the main character, but Megan has a lot of screen time and they share a lot of it together, so it feels very much like a duo, as opposed to her just kind of being like the sidekick. Like she has a lot of agency, and she's not passive. She's driving the car and everything, and she breaks him out of jail. Like she's very much engaged with what's happening. So I love their dynamic, and there's no arguing. I think that it's better than the dynamic of boy Tommy and Trish, right? Like the two of them have a mission, and they're both there together, both actively contributing towards that goal. So, and then I mean, we'll get to the finale, but like the final there is a sense of finality to it with these final characters, you know, in the third act and everything. So it just really pays off better, I think, in the case of Jason Lives, as opposed to, you know, final chapters, final characters. You know, it doesn't end with quite as bit of a bang, I would say. So yeah, Jason Lives for me all day on this one.
Yeah, this one's Jason Lives, and it's not even close. You guys in the chat are absolutely insane that this is a 52-48 for final chapter right now, and I'll tell you why. Because Trish is just barely there. She's hardly there. The final like chase scene and everything is the only part of the movie where I feel it's like intense and where she even has like a true purpose. Now, Megan and Tommy is this story that simmers throughout the entire film. Like when Megan sees Tommy, when Megan sees Tommy, she's like, damn, this guy's friggin' cute. She's the one that devises the plan to break him out. It's not even his idea. She's like, there's just something about this guy. Like, I just want to like live with the dangerous boy. Right. And there's something like, she has so much agency here. She is so friggin' charming. Is it Jennifer Cook? Is that her name, Vin?
Yeah.
Jennifer Cook is so charming here. And not only that, what Tom Matthews brings to this version of Tommy, guys, there is something so sincere about the way he plays Tommy Jarvis. It's why I'm so pumped that he is in the Never Hike Alone films, because his voice has a sweetness and a sincerity to it. You know that he feels bad for putting everyone in this position, but also he is man enough to not only admit it, but to devise a plan to take care of it as best he can. So that is leagues beyond little Corey Feldman Tommy, who on a whim shaves his head and whatever the heck the end of that movie is. I still don't even understand because that really didn't ever go anywhere. The version that we got in Jason Lives is like Tommy that is kind of a loose cannon still, but has found out a way to put himself together and deal with the threat of Jason. So I don't even think this one is close. Megan and Tommy, I want to see them in a movie together or a comic book. Like, I love this duo. I think, no joke, guys, maybe this is a hot take, I think this is the best final duo in slasher film history right here. So there you go.
Yeah. I have to agree, man. Like, even if you took these guys and took them out of a horror movie and put them in like an action, like a Speed, like they very much have like a Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock dynamic going on. Like, you feel like they're both very capable. You know, like it's it's not even close.
And Megan is so hot and so naughty. I just love it. The crotch shots are great. I mean, I'll take all that you got.
My favorite final girl of the series.
I just love that she goes after what she wants. And here we are, still 52-48 in the chat. Pat, that Halloween movie collector, I saw that you just jumped in. If you haven't yet voted, guys, go ahead and vote. I'll give it one more minute on the poll here, and then I am calling it. But I am flabbergasted. I don't know if I can really trust the chat anymore. I think I've lost faith. And
plus,
guys.
I mean, like,
I think I might have to stop doing my channel.
Trish fell for like the I would say like probably one of the worst characters in the entire franchise, and Trish falls for him is Rob Dwyer, the guy who talks a big game and then gets his ass whooped in like 2 seconds.
Yeah,
like she was like following that guy around like a puppy. So what does Trish know?
Yes, I love what does he say when he like finds her in the tent or whatever? He's like, and it's like, what the hell was that line? What did you just say? Yeah. The actress who played Megan was on V. Oh, I love V. V was like my favorite show when I was a kid. Robert Englund was there as well.
Yeah. And plus, throughout the years of making Never Hike Alone, one of the number one questions I always got was, can you bring Megan back? And we did try, but Jennifer Cook doesn't do horror movies anymore. Unfortunately, she has. I think she married the guy who like invented one of the tea companies, and now she lives somewhere in Utah.
I was going to ask, have you ever there you go. No? She doesn't do cons or anything?
She doesn't do conventions. She doesn't talk about horror movies. She's really just moved on from all of that. I think she found religion, and she just sort of looks back on that part of her life as not something she wants to. She doesn't want to look back and celebrate. So
fair enough.
Yeah, she's not the first.
It's not uncommon, with horror films. You know, these people.
Yeah,
it's just the thing they did, and kind of move on from it.
Yeah, it's too bad. It's too bad because I just think the contribution is, you know, so far above your regular horror fare. But I get it, you know. So guys, the chat ended up picking the final chapter.
Oh my god!
Clearly we have some work to do, you guys. We're gonna have to do couples counseling, me and the chat, over that one. That one is
Ash
like,
and Trish Megan get the pitchforks. Get out of here.
yeah.
No,
Trish greater than Meg. Yeah.
Megan's more fun, dude.
Who's
I would
Trish?
much rather
Yeah.
hang out with Megan than Trish, dude.
Again, for most of the movie, I'm like, Trish isn't even around. You know,
Yeah.
Trish doesn't even skinny dip.
No.
Good point. There's also no nudity in Final Chat or Jason Lives, right?
No nudity.
No.
Darcy DeMarce refused to take off her shirt.
I think that's,
it's
I
fun.
actually
You don't
kinda
even.
like that.
Yeah, you don't even notice. The movie's so damn good. You don't
Right,
even
'cause it
notice
does
it.
so many other things so well that you're not really
Yeah.
worried about that, you know?
Okay, guys. We got our final two categories here. Next up is visual effects and kills. Vin.
Arguably two of the biggest categories right here.
Yeah, we're stepping in. I mean, obviously, like with Final Chapter, you're talking about Tom Savini, so we're talking about a master class. As far as like, you know, designing the look of Jason, designing the mask, the kills are all very brutal. Lots of little subtle things too, like even down to like when Kristen Glover's pulled down off the doors because his hands are stuck in there, or you know, the violence of jamming the corkscrew into his hand and then hitting him in the face. Teddy taking the knife to the back of the head. Paulie getting the gun to the groin and then getting shot in the groin. There's lots of really
that one.
You know, the head crush against the wall, the neck slice with the banana. There's just, you know, twisting Axel's head. A lot of that is visceral and really, really good. Now, if you look at Jason Lives, there's a lot of great stuff there. I mean, punching the heart out, bending Garrus backwards, crushing, and in fact, a lot of this stuff got cut back too, but crushing Deputy Playboy's, I think that was the original Deputy Playboy, with crushing his head in front of that little girl. Apparently there were brains that were supposed to come out and have some fun there. Jason getting hit, oh man, so visceral, getting hit with the propeller on the boat. Just really great stuff. This one's really tough. I mean, I don't feel like neither does anything to edge out the other one. I think I'm going to bring them back. We're going to get it back to even with me if I do half and half again, because I feel like they both meet each other pretty well in the middle here. I don't think anyone outdoes the other one in any way specifically.
What you got, Mark? What do you think? Are you going to split your points like Vin over there? Are you going to be a fence sitter? I'm just joking.
No, I'm not gonna. I'm gonna have to say Final Chapter probably. It's hard to deny Savini, and if we're talking kills as well, like you obviously have to factor in Jason's kill, which is pretty iconic. I think we'll get into it, but I kind of feel like the whole finale is sort of built around that kill, right? Like it's sort of the centerpiece of the third act, and you know, for good reason. But you know, as Vince was saying earlier, Final Chapter feels like a meaner, darker, more violent film, and I think, you know, in accordance with that, the kills kind of reflect that, and the VFX as well are more. I feel like they were more focused on grossing us out with Final Chapter than they might have been with Jason Lives. So, yeah, for me, for my money, I would have to go Final Chapter as far as the kills and the VFX go.
Whew, this one is a really tough one, guys. I totally agree with what you guys are saying about Savini and the Final Chapter. I think, Jason sliding down the machete for his kill is pretty iconic stuff. I love like we were saying, the pushing the nurse against the wall, especially just the way that shot is handled, like with the handheld cam. I really dig that. Same thing with the head smash in the tub. That Crispin Glover, like crucified in the doorway, getting pulled down. That is one of those, like, it just looks so real. Like, I have no idea what that stuff looks like, but it looks so real. The way the skin just doesn't really give much. It just rips right off. But in Jason Lives, I love that room that's just splattered in blood. What's the girl's name that gets that? We don't even see the kill is off screen, but the room is just absolutely covered in blood. We've never seen anything like that other than like Nightmare on Elm Street or something like that. The bending back of Sheriff Garris, the heart, like you had mentioned, Vin. I love the pushing of the head through the wall of the bathroom in the RV. There's something about that is like funny and, you know, there's a little bit of a comedy to it, I suppose, but it's also just like so brutal and showing that strength.
Yeah, I love the kills that really showcase just how strong Jason is, and they kind of remind you, like, yeah, he's capable of this. Like, I don't know, they don't all sort of show that, but the ones that do are the most memorable, I feel.
Yeah, and you're talking about
Paula, yeah.
Terry Noonan, yeah.
I think that even though Savini is like, he's the king. I mean, he did, you know, Day of the Dead, which is my favorite zombie film of all time, one of my favorite films ever. I do think that what they do with Jason here in Jason Lives is a bit more on the creative side and doing stuff that, you know, we really hadn't seen before. Even with some of the kills having to pull back because of what the MPAA was doing, I'm going to give this one to Jason Lives. I like the VFX and the kills more on this one.
Nice.
Including his including the death. I like the head getting like snapped and the, you know, the gurgling and everything and all the stuff. There's like little chunks of like, it's just, I don't know, there's something so gnarly about that. Yeah, Jason Lives is going to get my point. I'm going against the grain on that one. I don't even need to check the poll.
Down the middle. Yeah, I know. We know where they're leaning.
It is 18 votes, 56% final chapter, 44.
Wow, closer than I thought.
Guys, I'll give it another minute because usually we've had like 22 to 23 votes. If you haven't voted yet and you want to let your voice be heard, then go ahead and cast your vote. So what we're going... So there we go. Mark, you said final chapter, right?
Correct.
Okay. And I'm going Jason Lives. So let's see what we've got for the poll here. All right, 19 votes, and I'm going to close it out. Final chapter wins that one. So, guys, it is just a half-point difference right now. The final chapter is at 14. Jason Lives is at 13. Wait, did I do this right? 13.5? That's not right. Is that right?
To math.
There shouldn't be a half point, right?
No, because I think Vince...
No, I just evened them. I should have evened out both those half points. So if it's at a 13.5, it should probably be at a 14.
Okay. Right? That's right. Because we've had, what, 4 points each category? Yeah, I'm not good at mathing either, clearly. And we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 categories. So 20... Wait, 24? It should be just... Oh, 20... Oh, sorry. 7 categories. So yeah, 14 to 14. Holy cow, we're tied going into the last category.
Oh, shit.
All right.
Nice. I like it.
Damn, y'all.
Here's where we pull ahead.
Yeah, here's where it's all decided, folks. So let's see what we got. And before we do the last little category here, I'd see a few people that have wandered in. Welcome on in. Make sure you hit that like button and
vote your
participate
conscience
in the polls. Yes. There you go.
Love it.
Guys, this is quite possibly the most important election of our time. You know? Yeah. So these are the elections that actually matter, the small ones.
I think the chat's hacked. The chat got hacked.
Yeah. The local elections are really where it's at. All right, guys. So last category, the finale. Vin,
I mean,
take us away.
I kind of tipped my hat on this before, but again, just kind of starting off final chapter. Again, we're talking about classic Friday finales here. You know, the typical chase running back and forth to the houses. I would say that Chris Higgins really has the quintessential like running around of it all. Ginny does. I mean, Ginny has a great one too. They all Trish. They all have the same thing, but it's the same formula. The thing that's so different about Jason Lives is that there are kids involved. Jason's in the camp. He's chasing kids around. He's chasing Megan around. He's chasing Tommy around. The stakes are just higher. Little Tommy being there sort of is like, ooh, there's one kid in danger. In this one, in Jason Lives, there's a bunch of kids in danger, and he's taking out the cops. He's going. I think he goes through 2 or 3 different cops. Takes out Garrus, takes out Deputy Playboy, takes out the other guy with the dart. And then comes after the kids, goes after Megan, and goes after Tommy. And that just scene with them in the boat and the fire. I mean, talk about nightmare fuel of like anytime you're out in the, and the ending too. So the sense that how spectacular the ending is, but the fact that Jason ends up in the water, the way that affected me when I first watched that movie as a child. I grew up on a pond. It wasn't anywhere in New Jersey. It was in Massachusetts, but I believe, just like with Jaws in the ocean, that Jason was in my lake, that if I swam out far enough and I didn't stay at the tippity top of the water, and I let my legs get down just a little bit, that Jason wasn't going to grab my foot. And I was petrified of that. Like for years, even now when I swim out there, I still have like that twinge of like, like I really still feel this. And so I really feel like the ending of, as great as, Jason sliding down the machete is, I'm not trying to back away from that. But as far as like exciting movie watching tension, Jason Lives wins by a landslide for me in this one.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean,
sorry guys, my computer freaked the hell out. So sorry guys.
I was like, what's going on with Davey over there? I'll just keep going.
Yeah, people are being jerks about the poll, even though they know exactly which way it's going to go.
Yeah. No, I think we did kind of allude to it earlier, but like the finale of just the cinematic language of being out on that water. You're on camp. You're physically on Crystal Lake, right? Like the stakes are high. It's just with the fire and everything. I can't see a case being made where this isn't better than. I mean, they're just in a cabin in part 4, right? Like it's not. I don't know. It's not very cinematic the way that it all comes to a head there. And like I said earlier, like it just it feels like they built that kill and then kind of reverse engineered the finale around that, not to downplay chapter 2 much, but it feels sort of that way. And whereas this is so much the production wise, from a filmmaking standpoint, I don't think anyone could argue that Jason Lives is just doing a lot more and doing it very well, for that matter. And am I wrong, but is this the first time we actually physically see Jason at the bottom of the lake? Right. Yes. And then we kind of see it again in like part 8 and stuff. But like, this is the first movie that gave us that iconic imagery of him just kind of being down there.
Yeah, it really started the theme of like Jason starts the movie in the water, ends the movie in the water. Happens in 7, happens in 8 in a way. And I really like that. I mean, I pulled that theme in the Never Hike Alone too. I mean, I loved that. You know what I mean? Like Jason does need to go back to the lake where he originally drowned. There's something that's so. And that's the other thing too, is that like Tommy having a plan, that there's something that you can do to defeat Jason. He's actually done something. It's not just like hitting him with another object. It's like, no, there's more purpose to this. He actually has a plan, versus like people are just fighting for their lives in the first 5 movies. This really did change that up, where like it isn't someone trying to just defend themselves against Jason, but someone calling Jason out and saying, I want you. And
and just like,
come on, you pussy,
kind of realizing that you can't just kill him like he's a normal guy. Like you really have to add a bit of ritual to it,
and just the image of him chained down there, it's just
it's really great. Floating. And it taps into that what's it called, like thalassophobia, just the fear of dark bodies of water, like, which is a thing that a lot of people have. Very common, right? So
that's actually what I'm going to put in my will. That's how I want to be buried.
Yeah.
At the bottom
of the lake. The costume and just throw me in the lake.
Put me in the Ghost Jason costume. I start an Indiegogo, go for it if you need to.
Yeah, no, I want to be like one of those things that people come down in scuba gear and visit me.
That'd be cool as hell.
There you go.
Right?
Yeah.
There's got to be a way you can
just get myself sort of like sealed up in some way.
Yeah. No, that'd be sick.
Or maybe it's just my ashes in like a suit, or I don't know. That way I don't pollute anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we want to be green about this if you do it. No, man. I mean, I think Jason Lives runs away with this. You know, Part 4 is probably a close second if we were to look at the whole franchise, but that's a whole different conversation.
Yeah, it's 50-50 in the poll right now.
50-50?
At 20, at 18 votes, it's 50-50.
Vote your conscience.
Yeah, vote your conscience, guys. Yeah, I think this one for me, it goes to Jason Lives. Everything that you guys are saying, of course. I also think it's like, we think of Jason as a water monster. This is the movie that like really solidifies that. Like, yes, he jumps out of the water as a kid and all that kind of stuff. But like Vin was saying, this is the one that set the tone of begins in the water, ends in the water, and really transforms him. I think it adds even more to like the folklore kind of aspect of the franchise. Whereas before it was almost like one of those urban legend kind of movies, like the way the lore was in the earlier films. This one is where we move into like the supernatural, the folklore, all that kind of stuff. I love just the tension between keeping the kids safe. Jason, basically about to crush Megan's head, and Tommy diverting his attention to have that battle. So to me, it's easy.
Yeah, final chapter is sort of like unhinged maniac on the loose, and then Jason Lives is killing machine. You know what I mean? It's really not the same if you really think about it, the way they approached it.
Yeah, they do feel very different.
They do feel sort of different in that way. And I mean, that's what I love about that Jason Terminator sort of style to him, is that, he takes the shotguns to the chest and he gets right back up in that sort of mode of like, there is no putting this one down with a simple machete to the head or something. Like, he's beyond that now. He's evolved beyond that version of himself, and he is now in stage 2. He's like a Pokemon. He's in stage 2, and he's like ready to grow. And then he turns into a snake. That's stage 3, but that's a whole nother discussion.
Oh my God.
There are like eras.
Worst upgrade ever.
Yeah, no, there are like eras to Jason, and I love that though. This could have easily been it could be a much more boring franchise than I think it wound up being, and I love that. With each new installment, it feels like people are just like taking these wild swings and all these different risks, and I don't know. It's cool that this late in the game they were able to be like, let's shift it a little bit, and and then they had to carry that going forward. So
yeah. So what, we all give it to Jason Lives here. The chat, 21 votes, and it's 57% for the final chapter. So that means that we have a final tally, guys. Jason Lives 17, the final chapter 15. We have officially crowned Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives, the indisputable champion of Friday the 13th films. How about it?
Nice, love it.
I like how close it was.
Yeah, no, and it should be. I mean, it should be. These are, I mean, like, again, like, this is like an impossible task trying to pull these two films apart, because they are both the quintessential movies of their generation in a way. Like, if you think about, like, again, 1 through 5, they really are set to the same beat, the same tone. 5 tries to repeat 1 with Jason type stuff happening, but 6 set a new tone, and it's the best of those versions too. Because 7 and 8 really fall off big, in my opinion. Like, it's great, Kane Hodder looks great in those movies and all that fun stuff, but the stories are like, they're just out in another direction that sort of never really. Because Tom brought it supernatural, but he kept it grounded in a certain way, and I feel like they lost that tether. Starting with 7, like bringing in a Carrie for him to fight, and then getting on a boat and doing all that stuff. Yeah, this is no slight. Like, I don't think we're sitting here slighting the final chapter in any way.
It's very close.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it had to be.
Thank you, Blazin.
It had to be Jason Lives versus final chapter, because no other. I mean, I love Part 2. That's my favorite, but I think it would have been a blowout. If we had pitted one of those. One of these against Part 2. So I mean, these are the ones that people always mention, right? Like, these are the undisputed two.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up 2, because I think 2 is the most underrated of them all. It's like, I would say 2 is almost the best directed, It's so sharp, and if we only had Hockey Mask Jason in that, it would probably be the best film in the franchise, in my opinion, because it's that good. The cast is that good. Ginny's that good as a final character. Some of the scares in that movie are so friggin' good. When you kind of look at Sackhead Jason, you kind of gotta giggle at him a little bit. He's a little like weird, and then you watch him get kicked in the best part is when he gets kicked in the balls and he's like,
yeah. I do like that's my third favorite is part 2. Yeah, and that shot when she runs into the shed and then you see Jason pursuing her through the window in the background. That is one of the most chilling shots in the entire franchise. So I love that kind of stuff. So I'm big into part 2 as well.
Yeah, when he sits up in the bed and then when he stands up in the room, when she's like, Paul, what's going on? And then he just pops up. Just good timing. And that's what always bummed me out about part 3, because it felt like Miner lost a little bit of his edge and timing to go play with the cameras. But again, those two sort of things intercede in 4, where Joe kind of picks back up the point of giving it that 2 feel with a little bit more visceralness, but then Tom coming back here and sort of reinventing the franchise for another round or another set of films was really where, that's where it captured me was part 6 was what reeled me in.
Yeah. Yeah. This was
the sack.
Gotta love that sack. Yeah, this was awesome, guys. I am kind of surprised. I thought the final chapter was going to win about halfway through. I was like, well, that's totally fine if my favorite doesn't win. I'm not going to cry about it, you guys. But yeah, this was awesome putting this together. And of course, I hope everyone knows in the chat that I'm just giving you shit. You guys know me by now, right? I've been doing this for almost 2 years. I hope you know me well enough. But Brett, you and I have to have a serious chat. So, I'm going to give you a call after this stream. So look out for that one. Really appreciate you guys joining me for this one. Mark, I know you'll be back at a later day. Vin, maybe
I'll be back anytime you want me.
The next one is February? Maybe we could do the 2 worst in the franchise.
February, March, and September, baby.
Yeah, so we can have some fun.
What are the 2 worst? I want you guys' opinion on this.
Yeah, what would you guys pick?
Jason Goes to Hell and probably Jason X, just because they're so far removed from what this started out as. Like, for me, that's the criteria for me. Like, it's so far removed at that point. Like, it's not even close to what it should be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, it's sort of like, I hate to hate on Jason Goes to Hell now, just because knowing Adam, knowing the story behind it, knowing what he really wanted. But then sort of like if you want to watch Jason Goes to Hell, you sort of got to take yourself out of Friday the 13th and go into another world. Exactly. So I think that's why it sits so low on my list and it's down there. I don't like to just shit on it to shit on it. It just doesn't really fit as a Friday movie. And my other film that I absolutely fucking hate from the franchise is the remake. I think the remake is the biggest ball drop of all time. It's like you had all the answers to the test and you spent all night smoking weed and getting drunk and forgot to actually put the movie together. Because they just went through all the old tropes and they didn't do anything new, and they got a worse soundtrack, and they had the best Jason they could ever ask for in Derek Mears, and they dressed him in the worst costume possible. Just so many bad things. The mass discovery is awful. Just the fumbling of so many, like the campfire scene at the beginning of the movie, they blow that. Like, it's just, they blow, like, bad writing, bad jokes, bad logic. It's just like all the things you think that they would have fixed, they actually break worse. And that's why I hate the remake.
I think it's very overrated.
I get a lot of hate on that, by the way.
No, I 100% agree. I rewatched the remake, recently, and everyone loves it, and I can't. I've never been quite on that train. I'd never been on that train.
There's a couple great moments, like the axe throw is nice. There's a couple moments that are pretty nice, and I think Jason looks great when he has the sack head. I just feel like he doesn't really do it for me when he's got the mask on. And there was just a lot of different opportunities that they could have done different things. I just felt like and a lot of the cinematography too. You can't really see what's going on. It's very dark. So I don't know. It's just, that one always pissed me off because it could be so much better. Like, if I sat here and told you all the little changes they could have made just to make it a better movie, you'd be like, wow, they left a lot on the field. You know what I mean? It's, even if they won with a majority of fans, it should have been a blowout. And it's like, they barely squeak by in a lot of different ways. But that's not to say that Marcus Nispel's a really good director. I love the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake. I actually love the Amityville remake with Ryan Reynolds. I was a big fan of Platinum Dunes up until that point, so I actually had a lot of hope going in. And they pitched the Rambo sort of approach. They were going to make Jason more of a Rambo. He's a hunter. He has traps. He thinks things out. And they just sort of threw all that away halfway through, just to sort of what would make a fun scene versus how does this scene fit into the movie. And I think they really lost their way that way. And I think that's where it kind of struggled. And Freddy versus Jason struggles that way too with the same writers, is just that the comedy's not funny. The characters aren't funny. There's a lot of Scooby-Doo-ish stuff that's kind of going on. And it's tough. You know what I mean? So I think that's sort of where those fall down to the bottom for me.
I respect it. I'm glad we had a little bit of time to kind of talk more about the other movies as well. I just wanted to throw it in there.
Yeah, for sure. We'll have to talk offline and figure out like that duo that we want to take on. I would say like I enjoy a lot of what the remake has to offer, but accepting that it's part of Platinum Dunes and all that kind of stuff, like I know there are some things that they obviously could have done better, but I love the Jason like as a trapdoor spider and Crystal Lake is his web approach. That's I think Jason is the most interesting he's ever been in the remake. And that is huge for me. But I think I would pick the two worst ones. What's up?
But tunnels?
I like it. I think
they could have done that in the camp. Like I feel like he could have just had trapdoors and hidden walls in the camp and just be actually
that's true
in the camp instead of being below it. In a mining
he needed something to do for all those years. He was digging tunnels. Him and Andy Dufresne from Shawshank. I would pick like Takes Manhattan and either Jason Goes to Hell or Jason X, just because Jason X, like the production value of it looks like a television show to me for the most part. I think Canadian the idea
show it that
it looks like a Star Trek sci-fi like knockoff kind of thing,
The only thing with Jason X is that your expectations are low.
Yeah,
you're not going into Jason X like, all right, this is the one, boys.
That's a good point.
I saw that in the theater, and I remember going in I remember telling my friends, this is gonna fucking suck, but this is gonna be a good time. And we did. We had a good time, and it was goofy, and they, it leans way too hard in too many different things. But you get Uber Jason at the end. It's a fun, like it's one of those movies that like it does suck, but when you put it on, it's fun to watch. Yeah, it's fun to make fun of. It's exactly. It's like a fun watch. It's not a good movie, but it's a fun watch. Exactly. And I feel like the remake isn't a fun watch, and it's not a good movie, and the characters are awful. And that's why I'm always like, that's why Jason X sits above the remake for me. It's like,
yeah.
No, I agree with all that.
I think that's the big takeaway from the Friday the 13th franchise overall, is that it's really fun. It is a roller coaster ride. Even the movies that I don't love as like finely made films, I really enjoy putting them on when I'm doing chores, or just maybe I want to put on a commentary or something like that. I think that's the biggest strength of this franchise, and one of the reasons why it endures, even though there's varying degrees of, I don't know if you want to call it quality or whatever. I mean, each one of these movies has diehard fans, right?
Exactly.
We all know which ones are the high quality films, but then there are still people that are like, Jason Takes Manhattan's the best. And it's cool that exists. Like what can you do? It's, I think that's the lovely thing about horror fans and slasher fans for sure. Yeah. So this franchise is like the best example of that. So having said that, it's time that they figure out all their rights shit and clear a nice path towards returning Jason to the silver screen. I hope the Crystal Lake TV show goes well. Looks like they're going to start filming here in just about a week or so, right?
I think they're already filming.
June 18th.
I think they're already doing some early principal stuff. They're doing still photography this week, and then shooting in New Jersey, about an hour away from the original camp. But I do believe the original camp is going to be used.
That's sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Have you ever been there, Vince? You've been there?
I was just there last week. I was in Pottsville for a film festival, and on the way home, I've been to Blairstown 3 times. Nobi Bosco, I've never gone down into the camp, but I did drive up to. I actually did some promotional stuff that I'm going to release on Friday, where I took a video in front of the big sign. Nice. So I went that far, but I know they're very, very sensitive about people coming down to the camp because it's a Boy Scout camp, and obviously you don't want to go down there and mess with that stuff.
Right.
But yeah, so I'm looking forward to from what I hear about the series, it's going to be 4 seasons in a movie.
Oh, okay, interesting. I hadn't heard that.
Yeah, so
All
4
right.
seasons in a movie is what we're probably looking at. I don't know if it's. I heard it a while ago. That was the original plan, was that they wanted to get through a certain amount of time, and then it was sort of like, we're going to take it to this this point in the story, and then whatever the films do, It was sort of
Okay.
like what I heard is like the approach that they're taking.
That sounds good. We'll see if they're able to actually execute it.
I know. So now we
So-
have to think of the turnaround time of, like, if you think about streaming series and the way they work. Sorry to cut you off, Davey, but
No, I was going to ask you
turning-
about that.
Yeah, so it's sort of like you're looking at, there's a year of production, and then the film, then the movie comes. Look at what they're doing with The Last of Us. You know what I mean? They're going to be 3 seasons deep. We're not getting season 3 till what, 2026, 2027?
At least.
So do you mean there's 4 seasons? Does that mean we're going to do 6 years between all of those seasons and then a film? Are fans going to wait that long? Or fans going to be hooked in? I do know that the series itself isn't going to follow Pamela the entire time, but she's going to be the main subject of season 1, but it is going to shift to Jason. Jason is going to be a character that spends a majority of the time on screen between seasons 2 and 4. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of Pamela left. When I talked to some people on the show a long time ago, we talked about there was a real core the core concept of the series was about showing the bond between Jason and Pamela. About the whole thing relies on what their bond is, because they do what they do because of the bond that they have with each other. So they're going to spend a lot of time focusing on that and really strengthening that. And once they're separated, that's really what's going to give us the magic of why they do what they do. And you're going to watch them, basically grieve and take it out on everybody in Crystal Lake, which I think is going to be a lot of fun. And I think it's going to be cool to see Pamela in action. From what I heard, the word that I heard about the way that she was described and the way that she is going to be on the show is a conniving bitch.
Oh, really?
She's
not going to even start sweet. I thought she would start sweet.
She is, but that's the thing. Like, she's sweet on the surface, but underneath she is a ball of rage.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's going to be great. She's going to be doing some really sick things to people. She's going to be, she's taking her revenge. You know what I mean? That I think that's what people are really downplaying, because we see Linda Cardellini. She's a really sweet actress. She's been great in everything that she's in. She's never really played a dark character before. Same thing with Betsy Palmer. Nobody expected her to have that twist and go after, Adrian King in the original movie. So I think fans are going to be pleasantly surprised when Linda Cardellini makes that shift into Psycho Pam, and I think that's where we're going to have a whole new generation of Friday the 13th fans going, yeah, Pam.
It'll be,
you know what I mean? I think we really want to get that. That's what I'd love to see out of it.
Yeah, I would love to see. I think we owe it to the character to explore that more, because she's only in that first movie and it's right at the end. So it's like, I'm glad that we're going to get to see her fleshed out more, personally.
The amount of Pam disrespect that I see is just off the charts. So I hope it really kind of sets everyone back.
Hopefully this balances the scales a little bit more.
Yeah. And you've been leading that charge, Vin. I think, like what you said when we did the part 5 watch party, you were like, this is a great chance to sort of reset that lore and that origin and build a brand new foundation that will be consistent moving forward, because the original series was kind of all over the place with trying to explain what happened. So I do think that's going to be the strength of the Crystal Lake TV show. Now, as far as turnaround goes, do you think that, so if they're in production now, they're starting to film like this month, do you think we're not going to get episodes until Friday the 13th in February of 2026? Or do you think we're going to get something before then or after?
I mean, there is a chance that they could get it up by Halloween. It could go that fast. It depends. I mean, it could. I mean, when I worked on The Rookie, when we filmed episode 1, by the time we were on episode 8, the first episode was airing. Like, the show was airing as we were shooting it, type thing. So it can be turned around that quickly. I don't know if that's necessarily the Peacock approach. I would imagine that they're going to be shooting all summer. They're going to shoot, I think, all the way to November. So technically, they could start airing in September, October, November if they wanted to. But thematically, you're going to always say, like, well, doesn't it make sense to release this thing on a Friday the 13th? There are 3 next year. So, it would come out in Q1 of next year as a big streaming thing at the beginning of the year. And it's thematic because they're going to be supported by multiple Friday the 13th, which I think is really nice. And kind of just to piggyback off what you said there about sort of like resetting the lore, and going back to 2009, it was like, that was one of my issues with 2009. It was like, here's your chance to tell us what happened to Jason, and they didn't. You know, they purposefully did not answer any questions because they didn't want to pick a lane. And I think that that's going to be the nice thing about Crystal Lake, is it's going to pick a lane. For better or worse, it's at least going to pick a lane. And I think we're going to see a side of the story that, you know, fans always wanted to know what happened to Jason. This is the story. This is the story. What happened to Jason? Did he drown? Yeah. Did he survive? Where did he go? Why didn't he come back? All these different things that kind of happen. You're actually going to get to see it and understand it, and I think add to the context of it. So I think that that's really cool. And then going from there, now there is a grounded foundation for each season film to sort of be like, here's the playbook, here are the rules. You know, you can obviously break the rules as you go further down in the sequels, but at least it feels like it's coming out of a place that isn't like, well, we don't know what the hell's going on, just make shit up.
Yeah. Yeah, as long as they have to abide by what they set up in the Crystal Lake TV show, then it at least gives all those movies a compass, even if they want to veer.
I think from what I heard, once they get to movies, they can do whatever they want. They could shift. I mean, they could literally just be like, you know what, that was a great season of whatever, like great 4 seasons, but we're doing Jason X2 now. Like, could literally go like anything like that, or they could just reboot and just do a Jason movie. And I feel like that's what we're going to get. We're not going to get Friday the 13th in the theater anymore. You're going to continue to get Jason Jason the movie, Jason Voorhees, Jason Never Dies, you know, all
Jason the breakfast cereal, Jason the flamethrower,
Jason Unleashed, and like all these different like titles that are going to have Jason in there. Maybe Jason Universe is the sequel to Jason X, and they've just been teasing us the whole time.
Ooh,
Everything needs a cinematic universe. It's going to be like the multiverse in comics. All the Jasons are going to come together.
Well, if the Craven estate can get Freddy going and like all these different things, you know, maybe we'll get like a whole like, you know, Avengers of horror icons coming in at some point.
I have heard
Avengers in Hell.
I've heard some murmurs, and I can't say anything, but I've heard some stuff about Michael and some stuff about Freddy. Not that they're going to be cinematic universe stuff, but I've just heard some things, some rumblings about the rights that we may be getting news on at least one of those characters relatively soon. So,
well, Halloween has the TV show down the line, right? They still working on the TV show?
I don't know what the plan is there. If I were them, I would just wait until 2028 and do something fun. But
there was also a rumor of a game out there.
Yes, I've heard about that game.
There, and I know people are interested in making a Nightmare on Elm Street game too, but I haven't heard anything about the Craven estate really being gun ho about getting a new movie going, unless you've heard different.
I've heard a little something, but I can't say anything.
Okay.
But you know, as far as video games go, guys, the Nightmare on Elm Street video game that LJN did on the original NES, I really like that one. And LJN makes really shitty games, but holy cow, the Nightmare on Elm Street game, so damn good. Okay, let's see here. Guys, I want to remind you, everyone hanging out with us in the chat, you are awesome. Thank you so much. Don't forget to subscribe to these two fine gentlemen, Vincent DeSanti over at WOMP Stomp Films and Mark over at Tales from the Shelf. Got their links in the description below for their socials and all that good stuff. There's also a link pinned in the chat and in the description, so you can go over and support Never Hike Alone, Ghosts in the Fog, an animated Friday the 13th fan film over on Indiegogo. They've got 4 days left, so you're going to want to grab. Some of these items are limited, guys, like that vinyl that I picked up. There's only 2 more. And that's it. Only 150 of those were pressed. So if you're a vinyl fan like I am, you're going to want to go and get one of those immediatamente.
And there are also test pressings in there too.
There are test pressings, yes.
There's 5 test pressings. There are only 13 test pressings that I have, and I'm putting 5 of them up for sale.
For all you money bags out there that are just looking to, you got money burning a hole in your pocket. No, it's not that. It's a very reasonably priced stuff. Yeah, no, I'm just fucking with you.
No, that's not too bad. I think it's like 75.
So much shit. I got to give you some shit too, man.
We got to make the movie too.
Exactly. Yeah. This is the cool thing about this is when you're purchasing these items, it is going to support a future project, and as part of that purchase of the perk, you are getting a copy of the film as well. So it's not like you're just getting a mug or a beanie or a vinyl or whatever. You're also, you're helping this dream come true for this really cool, unique project within the Friday the 13th world. And yeah, and it's awesome to say you became a part of this. I love supporting crowdfunding projects, especially for people, you know, who are filmmakers that I believe in, because it's so awesome to just to have a hand in it is just really cool.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and it's also the other nice part about it too. What we're trying to do for the backers of this campaign and the Final Cut campaign is that those two movies are really going to be special to us, and they're going to be special to the backers. And so what we want to do is basically delay the releases of these films to 2026 to release them on different Friday the 13th of next year. But we don't want the backers of the campaign to have to wait that long. So we're going to release it to them early. So they're going to get digital copies of it first. At first, just to stream it. They won't be able to download it because we don't want people reposting it, obviously, or people passing around the thing. And then we're going to try and get the Blu-rays out early as well. And sort of even there may even be Blu-rays out there before the film is even out. So that's sort of the idea with this one, because we want to remain a little exclusive for just a little bit. That way we can also bring it to film festivals and have bigger screenings, because a lot of the times that we get rejected from film festivals isn't for the film. It's just they go, it's on YouTube, and you know, so many people, everyone's seen it already. And I always try to be like, see, the point is that 1 million people have seen it. So now those people are going to come and see it in the theater. If you bring them, like if you play it, they will come. Like, let us help you bring people to see other people's films. You know what I mean? I have a fan base that I want to bring to your film festival. So if we don't want to play that game, then, you know, I think it's easier if I just wait and sort of play that game with it and get it into the film festivals and then release them as, you know, once they've done their run. But I'm not going to make backers wait. I think that was the whole thing with me, is I didn't want to have backers pay for it and then it goes on a festival run and they never see it. It's like, no, you're going to see it even before when the festival people see it, you're seeing it, type thing.
Yeah. Hell yeah. That's awesome. And real quick, guys, before we go, just what do you guys have on tap coming up on your channel? Mark, I want to give you the floor first. Do you have anything coming up for Friday the 13th or anything that you're planning to release here soon? I saw you had a video that kind of popped off about, you know, so much to watch, so little time, like that kind of FOMO and the analysis paralysis. What else do you have coming up on the channel there?
Thank you, man. Yeah. So you can find me, obviously, Tales from the Shelf on YouTube and Instagram. I talk about new movies, old movies, physical media is a big one, and just kind of horror in general is sort of the all-encompassing blanket that we like to live under. I have a Friday the 13th video that I wanted to get out, sort of just talking about almost like the accidental brilliance of the first movie and kind of how you know, it sort of accidentally started this franchise where, you know, it easily could have been just another slasher movie that kind of came and went, and all the things that sort of helped it succeed and, you know, give us the franchise we have today. So I don't know if it'll be out in time for actual Friday the 13th, but I'll probably just, you know, publish it anyway. It doesn't matter. It's hard to stick to these arbitrary sort of well, my problem is I don't start things soon enough because I'm like, oh shit, I should probably do something for Friday the 13th, huh? And then before you know it, it's here. But so that'll come out eventually. Yeah, and then as a quick sign off, Davey, thank you again for having me on. And Vince, it was really nice getting to talk to you and meeting you and talking about Friday the 13th. It was awesome.
Likewise, always fun to meet another Friday nerd and nerd out about this nerd stuff.
Of course.
It's fun. WOMP Stomp every Friday. I've been pretty consistent now. Ghost Files. We're doing our 50th episode this Friday. So that's a nice little milestone for us. I have a surprise for everybody. I'm probably going to release it earlier in the day, but we have a brand new trailer for the Final Cut, sort of like a expanded look at Never Hike Alone, sort of putting it together to make it a trailer that makes it feel like one movie. It's nice. It's cut really, really well. It's the same people who did our Never Hike Alone 2 trailer. My friend Dustin Fine, who does a lot of really great editorial work. His team is working on it right now. I'm actually set to receive it tomorrow morning, which is going to be really rad. And it's got a nice little surprise at the end, something new that we shot last week. It's very small, but it's an homage to part 6. And so there's a nice little mwah at the end of the trailer. I think everyone's going to love it. So we're going to release that on Friday morning. Obviously, I'm going to be sharing the shit out of the Ghost Cut campaign or Ghost in the Fog campaign. And then I'll be doing Ghost Cut at night, just hanging out with everybody. I don't really have a plan just yet. Usually I kind of plan my ghost files like the day before and figure out, okay, well, what I have, what's the news. I usually try to keep an eye out for news on Crystal Lake and things like that. I'm pretty sure something's going to drop during that day. So I'm sort of just allowing myself to be ready for some news to be released. And once that news is released, we're going to talk about it on Friday night and dig in pretty deep.
Hell yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, this has been such a fun time, guys. I've been looking forward to this one for a while. I think it was even better than I had anticipated. So thank you both so much for joining us here. And thank you to everyone in the chat again for hanging out and contributing to the polls and all that stuff and voting for the final chapter. You guys are great. Gotta say thank you to all the Patreon members and the YouTube channel members as well. You guys are awesome. And of course, our amazing group of Death Squad mods. So thank you so much for holding down the fort, everyone, and keeping everything on the rails here, as it were. Coming up next on the channel for me, I am going to be putting together a stream on Friday the 13th. I'm going to go earlier in the day, guys, because I know there's a lot going on in the evening for sure. And a lot of channels that there's no way I could compete with, like WOMP Stomp Films doing Ghost Files over there. So I'm probably going to do a little something earlier in the afternoon on the West Coast. So it'll hit you folks that are right when you're getting out of work, maybe on the East Coast. And maybe I'll look out for a little news. But I'm also thinking about some other fun stuff that I have planned. Actually, it looks like we're going to do we're going to talk about our favorite moments in the franchise. That's what you all have voted for in the poll. So if you haven't taken part in that poll that's on the main page right now, we are sitting at 41 votes and 39% of those votes are going towards favorite moments in the franchise. So that will lead the discussion on Friday the 13th. And then maybe we'll get into some other fun stuff if we've got some news to share. So, and then, yeah, Saturday, 2 p.m. Eastern, I'm going to be on here live with Trisha McMasters, one of our great Patreon members and channel members. We're going to do a live review and discussion of The Collector from 2009. That is a film that she picked for me to cover and review. So, yeah, you guys have been awesome. Another shout out to Vin and Mark for joining me on this one. I think in the future it would be great to do a battle of the verses of the worstses, as it were. So we'll talk offline and get that going. You guys have been amazing. Right there has been Vincent DeSanti from Womp Stomp Films. On the other side has been Mark of Tales from the Shelf. And guys, you know the whole drill. I've been and will continue being Davey Deathray. Take care.